Everyone, please be quiet. Thank you. So, welcome very much to the marketing discussion event for the Digirail project. And as you can see, we have a great headline here. So, we are talking about the foundation for the future railway traffic. And I'm really glad to see so much people here because this is really interesting topic. We will be speaking English today because there is at least some people from outside Finland. You can, of course, in the end, you can ask questions in Finnish also because all the presenters except Michel is able to reply in Finnish also. Okay, some general information first. So we are here to share information about the study project Digirail. Nothing that we are going to say today here is anyhow binding to the Finnish government or anybody else. And we are not presenting here any set decisions about ERTMS or digitization of the Finnish railways. But we are here to share information because we want to do that. We welcome open discussion, of course, and I want to highlight that no questions or no comments are binding from the audience side either. And aim is to talk about Finnish direction regarding the ERTMS and also the digitization of the Finnish railways. Here is a very short agenda for today. So my name is Juha Lehtola, I work for the Digirail project. We have a opening address from Mrs. Maria Rautavirta from the Ministry of Transportation and Communication. Then we have a keynote from Michel Roussin from ERTMS Users Group. And then I and my colleague Jari Pylvänen, and we will, from the Digirail project, we will continue with some topics regarding really to the Digirail project. And I hope that we have at least some kind of discussion in the end. But now, Maria, floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. And good morning from the ministry side as well. So I'm Maria Rautavirta, head of Data Business Unit, which is situated in one of the departments, the data department of the ministry. As you may know, we do not have separate transport and communications policy departments anymore. We have the services, the networks and the data. And that is to address the seamlessness and mode agnostic future of transport that is highly related to the communications and the digital societies of the future. So I'm trying to draw a little bigger picture around the Digirail project. We have prepared the National Transport System Plan at the ministry, or started. It will be a parliamentary project, giving the kind of the goals for 12 years of transport planning. And the objectives of this work is to highlight the societal impact of transport system that are the basis for new and continuous work needed for the future, and the needs that we want the transport system to meet will be determined more extensively than previously. So setting the big picture in a kind of a parliamentarily negotiated way. And the effectiveness of measures will be highlighted, and the methods and expertise for impact assessment will be continuously developed. So the big goals are set in the National Transport System Level Plan, and what it means in more detail, it means that the networks specified what kind of connections we will have in the physical infrastructure, how it will be maintained and developed in the future. But also what kind of infrastructure is needed to support the transport system in communications and electricity, and on alternative power or propulsion systems, just as electric drivetrain. And then a very important aspect is that the data and digitalization will be streamlined into the transport system level. This means the traffic control and management, transport services, and then also the data. And we are talking about transport management 2.0 or even 4.0 in some extent. But it means that the data will be also used in order to maintain the future networks. And then the services that we provide, this is the main goal is to provide better services, connectivity for the passenger and the freight transport. So the goals of also the Digirail project are delivered from this overall transport system plan. And the impact assessment will kind of concentrate on the 5 topics, which is the accessibility, the nationwide, as well as the urban regions and areas. The economic sustainability, which is very important when we are talking about, for instance, the investments needed for the new traffic management, and then the ecological sustainability. And for this, we have a very ambitious targets in national level, and now also the EU has taken a very ambitious targets. Then the social sustainability, the regional structure of Finland, we have to take that into consideration and how to best promote kind of a guaranteeing that we can take the best technologies into use, but also see that the whole country is being served in an interoperable manner. And then the safety of transport system, which also reflects to the security, data security and security of the systems in overall. So this is the kind of the background for Digirail, and then the project itself has agreed on some more concrete goals. And first of all is, of course, increasing the capacity, explore the possibility of automated transport operations, and I would say even more to not only to explore, but to guarantee that the system we are choosing will kind of steer the pathway towards the technological innovations that are yet to come. And then improving the reliability and security of the system, positive environmental impacts, enable the use of artificial intelligence also in predictive maintenance, for instance, and then, of course, enabling the real-time data and big data to be used efficiently. So this is what we have set for the project to deliver as the steering group. And some principles that we wish that all transport modes are following when they are implementing their projects. One of them is the kind of our national key target is to promote for the technology neutrality. So no sector-specific or mode-specific technologies should be used, but to rely the systems in the generally available technologies. And this also reflects to how the system should be regulated in the future. It should be left open what technologies and innovations merge, but more to set the goal in a little overarching way, so that the technologies can adapt to the future as well. And the cost-efficient manner of delivering the services should be left always open. So no lock-ins, no such a system decisions that will somehow prevent us being agile in the future or having the best available options available. And in the communication sector, the technology neutrality means that we will rely on the common networks for communication. So also the 5G, but also the 6G, whatever will come, and no sector-specific or mode-specific structures or solutions, but rather that the 5G standards would be incorporated with the specialty requirements from the rails. And this is the same way that the road sector is doing, the maritime, and even the aviation, the drone sector is developing based off the 5G standards developed in the 3GPP processes. And this is something that we should keep in mind, so that we will have a kind of other use cases for the communications networks as well, that will enable us to be more flexible on the cost, more flexible on the services we provide for the users of the different modes of transport. So it is said that traffic management is not the most data intensive purpose on rails or roads or forever. It will be the media, the services that the users in those transport modes are using in the future, the AR, the VR, whatever services will come, and those data needs will exceed the data needs of the kind of the operational requirements. And of course, the 5G also has new kind of possibilities to address reliance and security of the network, and the edge computing and such solutions that are at the moment studied in all modes of transport as well. So on the different levels of digitalization, we must be sure that we will have enable smooth and seamless transition, so that we will have a future-proof and future-ready system, but we always also have a backward interoperability to the previous generations of technologies, as well as to the future generations of technologies. And in there we have to keep in mind that the satellite systems are evolving as well, and positioning possibilities are coming available. And if we manage to build an ecosystem that is cross-border, it also means that we will have a possibility to expand the network in a means that it functions in Finland, but it functions also in cross-border contexts. And about the regulator's role or the procurer's role, so this I already mentioned, that we have to be risk-based and we have to execute the way so that we are setting just the goal, what is the service level and what is expected from the system, but to let it open for innovation and best options, also in the means of how the system is managed, delivered and maintained. So we want to be open to the future in a technology agnostic way in all levels. And this is something we would like to take to the standardization work also in the EU level. And as the Green Deal is now put forward, and part of that is the digital rail and green freight revision package for the technical standards of interoperability. So we have to make sure that these next phase kind of standards incorporate all our goals within them, so that we can have standardized systems, but they also meet the requirements of our for the functionality and for the technology neutrality, for instance. And this is how the goal for the project is set in the EU papers. So we need to build a flexible, efficient and reliable EU rail system, and building on the digitalization and innovations developed under the Shift to Rail program, and it must contribute to making rail more attractive for passengers. In addition to the traffic management side of the rail, the EU Commission is going to put forward also some integration on the ticketing aspects as well. So in addition to managing rail transport seamlessly, we also need that the passengers have a seamless journey experiences, and they are finally kind of a possibility to buy the tickets throughout the journey throughout the Europe. And this is being expected during this year, the Commission initiatives on these topics. And then a few words on the data sharing infrastructure. So the data that is generated and used for the rail It also has we have another or broader needs to utilize that data, and therefore we need to make certain that there will be no monopolistic structures who is holding the data or how it is accessed and shared. So this is important to keep in mind, that we at the same time that we are building the new services and traffic management systems, we have a distributed data sharing infrastructure that is facilitating the transport-related static and dynamic data needs of a larger ecosystem and stakeholders. And in that kind of a framework, we have to also somehow create the big data so that we enable the AI solutions and access to amount of data that is needed to run the operations based on the best technologies. And this will be done in line with the kind of overarching data economy work that the EU is also putting forward. The new commissioner on digitalization is taking forward the data strategy, and it will also address kind of the seamless and interoperable data environment for the Europe, and also to increase the sovereignty of European data resources. So there's also a little more concrecy on the data and digitalization roadmap from the European Union Agency for Railways, and they have this roadmap coming. So the digital society should be based on these shared ontologies, linked data and interoperable data systems for all the use cases under its remit, and this is much in line with the overarching goals for the data economy and how the digital-driven and data-driven Europe should be built. So this is also linked to the IoT development and the transition of industries into IoT kind of steered processes. And all transport modes are kind of part of that industrial revolution as well. So they are not developed in some silo that is distant from the overarching developments in the other sectors, but this is something that has to be taken into consideration in the interoperability requirements, as well as how the data is managed, what kind of value chains will be developed, and how the business models will be generated based on the data. And the user centricity and interoperability by design are kind of the prerequisites in this. So my last slide is about how we have to be closely working together in order to achieve all these goals. We have to be less fragmented. We have to keep our kind of eyes wide open on the sides, as well as within our sector, to look out of the box, trying to envision the future, what it might be looking like, and also being ready in a more concrete way to take concrete steps towards that future. So not only the vision, but also the concrecy have to fit to the same picture. And therefore the modular architecture and the agility that we build into the solutions of Digirail is important in order to generate the kind of ecosystem effects that we wish that this project will deliver. So in order to enable this kind of revolution, the railway sector needs to work even more closely together and be even less fragmented in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Maria. Next, I would like to welcome Mr. Michel Russen to give us a keynote speech on the ERTMS. No pressure.
Just a question here, please. Will you be able to will you share this material?
Yes. Yes. So there was a question from the audience that will we be sharing the material that we are presenting, and yes, we are in the Digirail website. Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. That's me. So my name is Michel Rusten. Before Jari and Jua are going to tell you about the vision which has been developed by the Digiradan team, I will give you some information about what's happening in the world around Finland. That is basically what I'm going to tell you today in my presentation. And of course that has to do with ERTMS. I guess you all know what is ERTMS, but I just pick up a couple of things so that you understand what I'm saying later on in this presentation. ETCS 1989, we started to think about it. It has a couple of important elements. One, for me the most important one is the train protection part, ETCS, to make sure that the trains are actually not exceeding speed limits and location limits. Then also very important, also for the discussion today, the radio link which you need between the train and the track. And there was from the beginning also a third element, which is the real traffic management part, because ERTMS, European Rail Traffic Management System, the real traffic management part was originally thought to be a kind of a Eurocontrol thing that you could see all the trains running everywhere over Europe. That has not been developed. But I think ERTMS, in its definition, it will expand later on also with other functionalities than the first two mentioned. For this presentation and for now, I think the first two are the most important. Also, you hear a lot of baselines and levels. Also, I will mention that just to make the distinctions. We have baselines. That is the version of the specifications, more or less. We have a 20-year-old one, baseline 2. Which was used for the first project, and those were mainly high-speed applications. They do not have the full, they do not cover the full functionality of the network. So therefore, it's 10, 11 years ago, we started to develop the baseline 3, which is containing also the functionality which you need for the conventional network. And within the baseline 3, there are two still legal versions. One is called 340. We also refer to that as the maintenance release number 1. And the most recent version at the moment is version 360, which we call release 2. There will be one in 2022. And that will be a version where also the so-called game changers are included. Maria already talked about automatic train operation, but you also have level 3 satellite communication, the new radio system, FRMCS. Those things will be included in the new version of the specifications where we are working on for 2022 to be released. Baseline 2 is still allowed to be used, but it will be maybe in the TSI 2022 also baseline 2 will be removed. That could be the case. So baseline 2 is after 20 years it has fulfilled its role. We have to move on. Don't confuse baselines with levels. You will also hear a lot about levels. Level 1 you will hear. Level 1 basically is the implementation where the communication is solely only from the track to the train, and it's all done by balises which are in the track. Level 2 is a little bit more sophisticated. It has radio communication, which allows communication between the train and the track. So it's a dual bilateral communication that of course brings more possibilities. Level 3 is basically the same as level 2. The difference between level 2 and level 3 is that for level 2, for safety reasons, we have said we need an independent train detection system in the track side. And that brings a lot of, let me say, restrictions. It also brings a lot of cost. We would be very happy if we could remove that, but that is still a bit of a challenge because the safety is always the issue. But level 3 is approaching more and more. That's for, let me say, starters. Then just a little bit about the users group. If you don't happen to know the users group, we were created in 1995 to demonstrate the concept of ERTMS. That took us by pilot lines. That took us about 10 years. After 10 years, we had the question, shall we continue or not? And we decided to continue as a knowledge center in Europe for ERTMS. And we have actually now become the platform for the railways to come together to discuss on the technical level about all the issues which you have with ERTMS and how collectively we have to deal with that. This is a picture of our members. apologies, Finland is not on this picture. But Finland is also not a member of the users group, at least not at the moment. It could always be in the future that things change, but for now we have the rest of Scandinavia, I would call it, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and then you can see that we go all the way down to Italy and Spain, and it is basically covering the western part of Europe. These are, let me say, the names of the companies over there. They are infrastructure manager, DB and SBB are integrated companies. These are all the railways who already are faced with very, very large investments in their network, and therefore they have joined in the users group to mitigate their risks. That's the infrastructure managers, but of course 50% of ERTMS is, or there are two parts of ERTMS, the track side and the train-borne. We also take care of the interest of the railway undertakings, who normally do not have a very large knowledge themselves anymore. But we try to make sure that also the other side of ERTMS is well taken into account. Maria was also talking about the regulations. Who's working on those TSIs? Well, we are working on those TSIs. It's always a combination of the European Union, the suppliers and the railways. On the political levels, discussions take place between the Commission, DG Move, UNIFE as an organization, and the official representative organization of the railways, which are CER, EIM, ERFA, EPTOLA. The real work, I always say, on the technical level, is done by the railway agency, ERA, which also plays a kind of an arbitrator role. We, as the users group, take care of the interest of all the railways. For the ETCS part of ERTMS, our counterpart is UNISIC for that, and the telecommunication part is taken care of by the UIC on the railway side. And nowadays it's called Unitel. In the past it was the GSMR industry group who takes care of on behalf of the large suppliers. Then actually I go to the most interesting part of the conference for you, of the presentation. What's happening in the other countries? So I tell you about the members of the users group. The first one is Norway. Norway has decided that they want to roll out a level 2 all over the country, baseline 3. Everything is based on, the contracts have been signed in 2018. It's one of the most recent, very large projects in ERTMS in Europe. So they have started. They started basically 6-7 years ago with the planning. So you are 6-7 years behind Norway, so to say, in your country. And they plan to finalize everything. That would mean that everything is installed in 2034. They have a pilot line in operation since 2015 to gain experience, and that's performing quite well. Your other neighbor, Sweden. Sweden was a little bit earlier with the implementation of ERTMS. They have the Botnian line. They introduced the concept of regional ERTMS. They also have the idea that they want to complete the network somewhere around 2035. I'm not sure whether they are yet so far in their program as the Norwegians are. But also they are aiming at implementing level 2 solutions all over their country. Denmark is started with the large rollout of ERTMS a bit earlier than Norway. They planned to finalize that in 2020. It became a little bit more complicated, and that means that the last part will be finalized by 2030. But I think the majority of the rollout will have been finished by 2023, 2024. Also, they have planned to roll out level 2 applications on their network. So what you can see over here, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, all level 2. And they are all aiming also at baseline 3. Sweden, what they have at the moment, they will upgrade it to baseline 3 as well, which you can read over here. The United Kingdom is not that far yet, but they also plan to have a national rollout of ERTMS. They have further stretching ideas. I'll come back to that later as well. They have a very well working first line or pilot line called the Cambrian in the western part of the United Kingdom, from which they gained a lot of experience. From that perspective, it's nice. Of course, they also got a lot of headaches because these projects the first projects are difficult. But they also have a second line, which will it is already taken, it's commissioned, but it's not yet, I think, fully operating. No, I'm making a mistake. This one is working. This is a very busy line in the middle of London, Thameslink, and this is making use also of ATO already. So this is one of the first implementations of ATO. The Netherlands is one of the early implementers of ERTMS. They have 5 lines in operation. They have also planned to equip their whole network with ERTMS level 2. They are starting actually now for this large scale rollout. And what you can see over here, this is the official message, that as a first step they think about 7 additional lines. That's covering, by the way, already quite a lot of the Netherlands. But the reason for that is that they do not have the financing yet available for the whole network. And they have said, we want to put the priority first on the refurbishment of the fleet. So a lot of the money in the Netherlands is first allocated to the refurbishment of the fleet. All fleets should be equipped with ERTMS, and then the whole infrastructure is transferred to a level 2 only infrastructure. So that's a quite drastic approach to get away of the Class B system. Germany was a little bit lagging, but is at the moment gaining a lot of momentum and also getting very enthusiastic. And they are getting enthusiastic because of the fact that they want to create a digital railway. That is the same thing as what you are talking about. And they have already 1 or 2 lines in operation, but they also now have a couple of really big projects. For example, Stuttgart, which they will develop in the coming years. They have not yet decided, have not finalized the whole, let me say, financial planning for the rest of the network, but they definitely are going also to a level 2 or level 3 full equipped network, because they also want to create the digital railway. Belgium, you may know that somewhere around 2010-11 there was an accident in Belgium which created a lot of casualties, and for that reason Belgium very quickly actually took a decision to roll out ERTMS over the country, because they also had to do that in a hurry. They made use of what they already had as a kind of a commitments made earlier years, which was rollout of level 1. They also had already some ideas of first implementations of level 2, so they continued to do that. But they also said we need a kind of a temporary solution before we can really do the large rollout. So they have also decided to use something called level 1 limited supervision, which is basically just only for a transitionary period. But it's planned, this whole rollout is to be planned to be finalized by 2025. That means by that time ERTMS equipped trains only could run all over Belgium. You don't need the Class B system anymore. And in a later phase, they will also replace all the other parts of the CCS system, and then everything will be full level 2 or level 3. That's Belgium. France is, I would say, a little bit lagging with the rest. They are, they were a long time hesitating because they have already quite well functioning automatic train protection systems. They were very advanced also in railways 10, 15 years ago with the high-speed lines and so on. So they actually, that's always the disadvantage if you are a front runner, then at a certain moment you are a little bit more in the back. They also thought in the beginning that they wanted to use level 1, but they have now also let me say, understood the benefits of going to a level 2 environment, enabling this digital railway again, because this is also a very big trigger for France. So France will catch up. They're at the moment planning some new lines to basically also explore the whole consequences of installing ERTMS level 2 on high-speed lines and also on conventional lines. Switzerland is probably the most advanced in the deployment of ERTMS. They have equipped their whole network. Some parts of the network are level 2 equipped. The other parts will also become level 2 equipped or level 3. They are also working on that, very much thinking also about the future and more than only ERTMS. For the time being, they have installed also this temporary solution, level 1 limited supervision, to make sure that they can completely change their fleet. They can, and they don't need to install their Class B systems anymore on the fleet. And as you probably can imagine, Switzerland's also a little bit in the middle of Europe. There's a lot of traffic passing through Switzerland, coming from Germany, going to Italy, and so on and so forth. And by having done this, they also do not force train operating companies to have the Class B system, the old Class B system of Switzerland anymore. You only need to have ERTMS baseline 3 and you can run all over Switzerland. They are very far over there. Spain is also one of the early implementers of ERTMS. They have quite a number of high-speed lines which are fully equipped with ERTMS. They still also make use of their Class B system, which is not helping them from my perspective, because then you are always a little bit in the middle of two worlds. But they use ERTMS on the high-speed lines, all of their high-speed lines on the European Union corridors, and also on the commuter lines. They install that. They have installed that the commuters around Madrid. And finally, Italy. Also, Italy is one of the early implementers of ERTMS. The high-speed line between Rome and Naples is already working for 12, 13 years without any problems. And they have installed also ERTMS on other high-speed lines, but they now also have decided to go for a full rollout of ERTMS on their network. They also aim to be ready somewhere around 2035. And they also say very explicitly that they want to completely get rid of their Class B system, which helps, I think. That is the overview of what's happening in the countries of around Finland, who are members of the users group. Then what is happening in Europe itself on the central level, that is, we try actually to make sure that this is becoming a real European system and not only a set of national systems. So we are working on this interoperability. We have a memorandum of understanding in 2016 signed by all the relevant players in the world of ERTMS. And from that, the Commission actually made a plan which they call the Delivering an Effective and Interoperable ERTMS the Way Ahead. You can find that somewhere on the internet if you want to. And the focus basically in that plan, and that is where we collectively are working on, is to make sure that it will be an interoperable and compliant infrastructure, that we put efforts in more efforts in making sure that the onboard units get really standardized, that we have efficient testing and validation processes, because all these things actually make ERTMS at the moment still very expensive. How do we maintain ERTMS in such a way that we do not every time have to renew our systems? And also the funding and the financing of ERTMS for trackside and onboard is an important element for discussions. And that is because of the fact that mainly the fleet owners are faced with the problem that when they install ERTMS, they will not have a short-term return on their investment, and that makes it a very difficult business case for fleet owners. So the European Union is also trying to work out on how can this problem be solved. That is not to say that the European Union is going to fund all that money, but at least they try to make sure that there will be possibilities also on a national level to take care of funding, and they can probably do something on the funding of international traffic. All the discussions which we do over there to make sure that we have the progress over there take place in a group called the ERTMS Stakeholder Platform that is chaired by the Commission, and the Agency for Railways is the co-chair of that. And companies such as what I mentioned in my triangle, all these companies, they are sitting around on the table discussing those things over there and doing a lot of work over there. And that work is at the moment also financed by the Shift to Rail organization, which was mentioned by Maria as well. I have one final slide, which could also be interesting for you to know, because maybe you hear something more about it later. And I think it was also mentioned by Maria. We have discovered a couple of years ago, we have concluded a couple of years ago, that the way we have worked on ERTMS for 30 years is not the way to proceed for the rest of the signaling system. We have actually fallen in the trap that we took too much into consideration the systems which are already there. And that is the picture which you can see on the left-hand side. Actually, all the countries in Europe and the infrastructure managers, they have relatively good working CCS systems, but they are all different. And because they are all different, you have to take all these different systems into account if you want to put it immediately in such a system, to replace something out of that. But you can clearly see over there that there's hardly any market potential for suppliers over there, and that is one of the reasons why we have such really very high costs. And what we are aiming to do over there is we want to redefine the whole CCS system, create an architecture with well-defined functionalities and well-defined interface specifications, so that we actually can create a much more interesting market for the suppliers. They can develop products which could then also be sold not only in their own national implementations, but can be sold really on the European level. Which in the end, of course, should then also decrease the cost for the infrastructure managers mainly, because we are talking about the CCS infrastructure side with RCA. So we reduce the life cycle cost. We create this modular framework where we can also easily then change a certain part of the system to allow for new technological developments. Of course, we also have to take into account that we have to go from our existing situation towards this new system, the migratability. And of course, it's also important that as long as it is very costly, that we also make sure that what we invest, that we can also make sure that it doesn't necessarily immediately has to be replaced again by something else which is very expensive. So this is where we are working on at the level of the use group. The members of the use group are working now also in addition to the work of ERTMS, working on this whole larger set of the CCS, and that is all because we all want to create this digital railway. That's it.
Thank you, Michel, for an interesting presentation. And so now we continue a little bit about the Digirail project. First of all, I will have some maybe more general information about what is the Digirail, why we do it, and who is the people behind it. So, and Jari will continue about, let's say, the details then after me. But anyways, what is Digirail? We have already heard from Maria and from Michel something about digitalization of the networks and the aims to digitalize stuff in the European railway network. So that's why we are also the Digirail. We actually started with an ERTMS survey project, but quite rapidly we changed it to be a Digirail project, because we see that digitization is really the thing that we need to be looking for, and ERTMS is of course really vital part of that, as we heard already from the previous presenters. But anyways, Digirail, creating a common vision, that's really important, as I think also heard from Michel that it's really important. We have to have the onboard staff, we need to have the infrastructure managers, we need to have everybody on board in this, and we need to have a joint common vision what to do. And by that, we need to have all parties involved, and we need to have all parties committed to the result. And that's how we have organized now the project, from starting from the steering group and going to the project group and to the project itself. Main objectives. As we also, it's nice to see from, or you also saw from Maria's presentation, so the steering is quite clear for us also from the ministry side. But anyways, here is for the project: enable the full potential of digitalization of the railways, connecting Finland to the future ERTMS development, and of course one quite important objective is to replace, how do we replace the current ATP system with ETCS. And something fancy has to be in the presentation where I write down megatrends. So we are following megatrends, of course, in the ministry and in FTIA and in Finrail and everywhere, and also we are doing it in the project. But anyway, what do we mean by following the megatrends? We are preparing for the future and not just looking for the current situation and quick rewards. Then something about who makes the Digirail. We have a steering group which is chaired by the Ministry of Transport and Communications. We have our NSA Traficom there, We have FTIA, the infra manager. We have VR Group, Helsinki Regional Traffic. Let's say the majority of the rolling stock is there. And then we have the Traffic Management Finland group also, who is responsible in Finland about regarding the traffic management. Then we have a project group, close-knit strategic level core group. So this is where we are steering the project, or not steering, but we are, let's say, making the project happen. And there are the names you can blame then. So representing the project group is me, then Jari Pylvänen, who will be talking later on. We have Timo Nieminen, Juha Artukka, Johanna Wallin, Esko Sandelin, Mario Proterus. I will not ask you to stand up now because everybody is not present. Somebody is in holiday in another side of the globe, but many of the participants are also here now. And our task is then to ensure the project quality, realization of objectives, and the comprehensive observation of safety also, as Michel said. So we need to be innovative, but we need to remember the safety, but we don't maybe want to, or, well, that's very important. This is how we have organized ourselves. We have the project office where the operational management of the project is done. And there we execute all the projects, and we have a big room there where everybody is working together, and we have 8 sub-projects going on simultaneously, or we had. Now we are in a situation that we can actually start to make final reports on some sub-projects, and then we can focus on the big ones that we have left. Then we have supporting functions. So this is a real project. So we have 30 people, for example, working on, and this is, I would say that this is quite massive stuff as a survey project now going on in Finland. So we have an advisory group also. Somebody might be wondering that what is an advisory group, but somebody has called it also the wise men's club. I don't know about that, but anyways, it's let's say it's a place where we have discussions in a little bit different level. So there is no participants from some specific railway stuff, but from other fields of industry also, and we get good advisory also from there. And why Digirail? I don't know, maybe Maria and Michel, you have already answered why Digirail today, but I will anyways present it. So, but okay, I put first the increasing environmental way of transportation. I think this is quite obvious that this is what people who are working for railways, what we want to do. Increasing capacity and cost efficiency. And when we are talking about increasing capacity, we will have a lot of talking about that also later on, but we are not thinking that there is some computer technology solution that will make us double the capacity in our railways, but we are looking at it thoroughly. So we are looking for all the possible solutions, not just this technology stuff. So, for example, we are taking into account the railway investments that we already have been planning, and we are taking into account operational rules and how to operate, for example, the commuter trains in our capital area. And by combining these three, so technology and operational rules, and then hopefully coming infrastructure investments, then we are talking about a huge potential for the capacity increase. But with just one of these, I'm not so sure. And enabling new opportunities for developing services, this is also something that we already heard. But this is, we want to lay the foundation so that we are able to do that. So with some solutions or sticking into what we have at the moment, we are not able to do that. Then very important, improving the safety, improving reliability, improving availability. Safety, reliability, availability, they are already in a really, really good level in Finland. Of course, we want to at least maintain them, but we also look quite detailed at how can we improve them also. And as I was talking about earlier, so looking for the best possible ways to increase capacity from all points of views. And we have already found out that, okay, the best possible way is to combine things. So that way we can achieve really, I would also almost say that dramatical capacity increase. But this means that we need to have a new set of mind also. We cannot continue operating trains, for example, like we have done it in the last 120 years. And not just ERTMS. As I said, we are digitization, or we are looking for the digitization of railways and all that thing. ERTMS or ETCS at least is the very, very important foundation for all of this. But this is, I just want to highlight that we are not only an ERTMS project. Developing competence on digitization. I always say that we have to find out a way how to get people to meet people who are digital people and people who are railway people, and we have to get these two together to make this happen. Because it's very, very important to understand the railways if we are talking about the digitization. You cannot make this just digitization and not understanding the railways. So this is something, developing the competence is really, really important. We don't have that much in Finland, and there is, as Michel mentioned, there is huge projects going on already in Europe, and there will be even bigger ones coming up. So we are competing for worldwide resources, and we want to, of course, set up this competence in Finland, that we have it in our own hands, but we also have to think about competing with, let's say, whole globe, but at least for whole Europe. This is quite interesting. This is also something that we have to have a completely different kind of way to think about it. We cannot continue like we have been doing it for past 125 years or so. So feasibility, targets of the study. I would say that this is the most important thing, that we are really looking for the needs of the railways. So that's where we started. We're looking for the bottlenecks, so simple things. Railways are quite simple things, and simple people working in this project also. So we are doing simple things first. We are looking for the bottlenecks together with everybody, all the stakeholders. For the current situation, what is at the moment, what are the bottlenecks, and looking for the future also, what's going to happen. And this is actually, I think that this has been going on really well. And then we are searching for answers, how to solve the bottlenecks. And this is where we got to the situation that we realized that, okay, we need to do all kinds of stuff, not just one. Readiness for digitization. This is really something that we need to look when we have a technology survey, for example. We are looking at that, okay, what kind of technology we should implement, or how do we answer to the future needs. So we have to be ready for the digitization, and this sets up some demands for the new technology. In Finland, we have to take care about the area differences, of course. We have the capital area here, where it's quite dense, okay? It's not even, when we are looking at globally or European-wise, it's not dense traffic, but it's in a Finnish scale, it's dense traffic anyways. And there is a lot of trains. A lot of people have to go day to day to work and get back to home. Then we have the core network, where it's very important freight trains, for example. And there is quite important long-distance passenger trains. For example, me, I have to come from Tampere to Pasila to get to the Digirail project office and back. I want to get back also in time. This is the core network. Then low-density areas. We have a lot of our track network is on low-density areas. So this is also something that we have to be balancing. Maybe there is different kind of solutions for different kind of areas in Finland. Or maybe there is one solution. We don't know yet. Cost efficiency, of course, really, really important is the cost efficiency. How do we make this in a really, really efficient way? Not maybe, or definitely we are not looking for the most cheapest solution, well, let's say in the investment wise, but we are looking for the whole life cycle of the whole system and thinking about what is really effective. And also that was nicely referred in Maria's presentation, that we need to look from the many, many different points of view of also this. Being part of the European trends regarding signaling. So we heard something about Michel, and we've been traveling around Europe and asking for the infra managers, for example, and suppliers. We've been visiting them. asking that what's going on. And now this is we are trying to answer to this also. And we definitely, I don't know, okay, the official papers, if you look from the internet, you see all kinds of things that are really quite careful official opinions. But the trend is definitely towards the digitization. Better services for the end users. This is also something that we are quite often thinking with when we are with the railway people. We are thinking about the railway system, that how do we develop the railway system, how to make the railway system better. But okay, what's the point with the railway system? We have to think about the end users. So there is people who need to transport goods, and there is people who need to be traveling. So they are the end users. So we need to think them. Better services, better connectivity and everything. And then I started up with environmental stuff, so I wanted to highlight it again. So environmental impacts, really important. Norwegians, they say that they have a green project because they are making level 2, because they don't need to make so much steel and copper cables and everything. I don't know, do they actually have any calculations on that, but I think it's nice. Green project. Okay, about the schedule. We started up, or we set up the project in May 2019. Quite rapidly we set up the project and started working on. So really, as I mentioned, we had 8 sub-projects going on simultaneously. So there was a lot of people. We needed to get people involved to the project very, very fast. And on October we already had some first results. Then December. So at the moment we are just finalizing the third, let's say, mid-report. And these reports, they are also, or they will be, no, the first 2 I think are available in our website in digiradan.fi, and the third one also will be there. In March 2020 we will be presenting our final results, and then there is something that the project maybe is unable to affect anymore so much. Okay, so this is really, really big thing. So political decisions based on the results of the survey, I hope. I cannot, of course, say that that's the way it will be, but we are a little bit starting up during the project already, the planning of and the execution of potential implementation, but definitely very, very quickly after the decision, which is whatever it will be, we have to start thinking about the execution. And then another thing is that, okay, the survey project will propose a strategy, and we are also making a draft rollout plan, but that needs a political decision before we can be talking about implementation. So all of you who are here wishing that I have €1 billion at the moment to use and I want to buy everything from you, unfortunately that's not the case at the moment, but I hope that's in 1 year, 2 years. And then, Jari, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Juha. And the mic is working, I assume. Really good speech so far. Welcome also from my side. It's really pleasure to see you all here. Really, really a lot of people are interested in it. What we have been doing so far and what are the targets. And I don't repeat most of these messages passed already to you, but I need to repeat some of them. And what we have been doing in the autumn time with my colleague Juha here, we have visited quite a lot of the infra managers and talked with them what they are looking for in the future, what they are aiming. And nevertheless, what is the ERTMS strategy behind or below? All of them want to achieve something with the digitalization. And this is something we need to realize also where we are today. And also the ministry has really done a good job for that for years already, that we need to go this way. But as a railway people, we are a bit slow to change ourselves. But now it seems it's the proper time to start think about that. And this is what we heard. Every country we have been visiting are targeting the digitalization, utilizing everything out of that, including the ATO, what grades of automation that differs, but everybody is looking for some benefits out of there. And what we did in the study as well, we set a couple of scenarios from the beginning, and then during the study we squeezed them to 3, in fact, according our findings from the other countries as well, and the papers we read, and we realized better what is the development situation globally in the different technologies. And now, first scenario is what we want to study is if we just continue with our Class B system, which means JKV system, which is existing here. We figured out that this is possible. We can do that if we want, if there's willingness to have that. But at the same time, it means that we will have someday own national systems, and we are not globally supported, at least in the development-wise. So we have our own nest here after that decision. But good thing is what rise from there, we are not in a big hurry that we need to start roll out next year. We have some time before we need to go forward. And the scenario serves for that, but this is not the first option for us. The second scenario was to implement 2 levels in Finland, which in fact could be quite attractive. As you see, we are not alone, totally alone. Also Belgium and Spain are going forward with this kind of ideas currently, even though they are targeting still for the future kind of systems. As France, now I'm talking only according our visits, what we have seen ourselves there, not referring anything else here. But therefore, these colors are only covering these countries we visited. But at the same time, it might limit our best development possibilities for the future in certain parts. So where we put the limit is the big question. Why shall we limit something for the future development, which might influence also the entire utilizing of all the benefits we can gain, and the entire railway network is complex thing, and then we need to take into account all parts at the same time. And naturally, the radio network needs modernization anyways, if we go to the ERTMS, because we don't have a GSMR network. The future network is something else. And what it will be, we are not exactly yet sure. And the third scenario is the modern radio-based ETCS, and we think this forms the foundation for the future development. As we heard the other speakers' voices also, that this is something we are targeting currently in Finland, and this is what we need to at least aim. And have the dynamic traffic controlling possibilities to take all out of the railway network, what we have in Finland. And this is not just urban area we need to think. And also get on board to the development with the rest of the Europe. There's a lot of development ongoing inside the Europe currently, and this is something we need to take all out ourselves as well. A bit more detail about this scenario. What I said, there is a lot of European-specific development things going on. For example, Switzerland, UK, Germany, for example, they have really big development innovation programs ongoing toward digitalization. And those are based on the ETCS systems. The example is the RCA, which Michel in fact showed in his last slide. It's a concept today which includes a lot of parts of the different types of system which can be implemented through that concept. And it sees the most beneficial way is to implement it through level 3, ETCS level 3 system. But to be honest, today it's still a concept which creates, it's a bit theoretical thing today. But there's really a lot of willingness to go forward with this kind of planning in the future in globally. And also this brings the standardization in the different level that we can take all out of the standardization and make new kind of business cases for the suppliers, for example. And this is one of the aims there. And naturally, at the same time, the aim is to reduce cost for the infra managers for the future as well. As Juha referred, it won't be the cheapest investment we will do, but that is the target that in the long run, we need to reduce the cost as well. Also, the satellite technology will be available for positioning, and in a way that the radio-based system offers continuous movement authority, which means the green, red, some colored lights directly to the loco cabin. It offers the better possibilities to react when the situation requires for that. And when we go this kind of system, it also allows to have the capacity benefits when it's designed properly. Without proper design, we heard also stories from the other countries in Europe that you can even manage to get worse capacity than you have before if you do the design badly. And this is something we need to put effort before we start to do really something. ETCS onboard system, those need to be replaced or renewed depending on the life cycle. And also the data radios have to be there in every loco in this scenario. It's not far away from the combined level 1 and 2 because the base system have to be there as well already. Radio network and efficient data transfer is needed, but that will be the future anyways. And it will be an investment, but nobody knows what can arise from there. You can take benefits out, maybe the areas we cannot even figure out yet. So there will be new things coming on. I assume that nobody knows that currently how much apps we are using, for example, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. So world is changing really a fast speed, and we need to stick on it. And in the future, in the long run, we are talking still something like 20, 30 years, 40 years maybe, the life cycle of the systems. And we need to ensure that the updatability is easy and maybe the cost efficient in the future as well. If something new is developed, we need to make sure that we can take everything out of that development also in Finland, not just taking that to the rest of Europe and then we are looking here, what shall we do again? We need to be on board in the development as well. This is vision kind of scenario. Nobody knows what really is inside there yet, but it will come in a couple of years. And therefore, in fact, when we look at the study targets in a nutshell, which are formed from the ministry, from the steering group targets, more precise targets to us, technological-wise and the capacity-wise, there's in fact only one scenario we shall follow. It's the modern radio-based ETCS system. And this is something what we have been learned so far. Reminder is that this is a vision kind of scenario. This requires a lot of work before we even can start. But from there, we can rise something new. They was talking about game changers as well, the TSI game changers, which are targeted, in fact, 2022 to the TSIs, and there are the 5 game changers listed here. The ATO, automatic train operation for creative automation 1 and 2, are targeted to be in the TSIs. The braking curves, more efficient way to handle capacity and the vehicles in the future, they are targeted to there. Localization as a satellite positioning, in fact, is the major topic inside localization. Naturally, there's also some other topics arising from the localization, but the game changer point of view, it's a satellite positioning. ETCS level 3 will be defined more clearly. The specifications are a bit open. That has been there from the beginning, so it's not a new thing, but it will be more precise in the future, for example, the operational side of TSIs. And that will come. This is targeted really a lot of countries. The problem there is train integrity monitoring, which hopefully will be solved quite soon as well. Future railway mobile communication system, and this is really a big topic to us here in Finland. And this is targeted also to have the specification in for 2022 TSIs. And this will be the new kind of radio communication system replacing the GSM-R technology from the past.
One question about this. When do you estimate that you can have on market FRNCS networks available?
That depends. It takes a couple of years after the TSI have been launched, that's for sure. And depending the level of the maturity of the specification, but not 2022, it will be after that, maybe 3 to 4 years.
Yeah. They say that it will be 2026, 2028.
Yeah. Okay.
Here not to oppose my views, but in practice, will we then be waiting for up until that?
Hey, can we take questions after all the presentation?
Yeah,
So
if
because we have people also from the webcast, so
Yeah,
we can
sorry,
then, we can then
yeah,
take a microphone or repeat the questions for everybody can listen. So that would be a more
Okay, let's go
controlled way.
then there.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. Thanks, you. And also there's this kind of new arisings of the interlocking side, the combined interlocking RBC systems, the RCA, which has been talked over, and these forms the base for these kind of game changers as well. So we need to think what to do also that side. But if we put ERTMS there as well, it forms all the base for the game changers, for the interlocking technology, everything. So we need to first decide how we move forward with this, and then we can build the add-ons there. But we need to do the selection in a way that we make sure that the updatability is possible, and it will be the easiest part in the future, that we don't need to do the investment again to make the updatability available. And this is something we really need to think today already. And the ERTMS, as said, it's the ETCS levels and also the radio network, but including the operational rules, at least also already in the higher level. And this is something we need to also consider when we are going to this kind of model, that what kind of operational rules we need to change to gain the most benefits. So the work needs to be started quite ready, even though we will have years to time when we really start the rollout. And one thing to mention there still is the cybersecurity. When we go to the world of digitalization, this rises ahead quite heavily, and we need to put effort for that as well, really to see what is the behind of this system and how to ensure the safety, also the cyber manner. And this is something in the railways we are not so used to do, and we need to start to do that quite fast. And the radio network, I previously worked in the signaling side, and the radio network was a thing you must have, but you don't need to understand it. It's like the software guys today in every country. You need to. Those were the guys who did something with the hoodies, and then it rised, and it was great for the companies. But today the software is everywhere. And the same thing, in fact, in the railways, the radio network will be everywhere. And we need to start closer cooperation. The cooperation has been really good so far, but we need to still go beyond that. It's a part of the railways. The radio network is an essential part, the backbone of the entire railways in the future. And this is kind of a waking also from this side, that the future is going that direction, so we will need really good radio network, the data transmission in the future as well. And here you can see the technologies on the left-hand side. GSMR, there is circuit switch data, GPS, which is already functioning with the ETCS level 2. There's Wi-Fi, public LTE, public 5G to the ATO light, which means that the route scenarios are delivered to the onboard, and the ATO TMS is more handling the dynamical the situation, can manage something else. And the FRMCs, which is coming, is believed to be the base for the ETCS level 3, and also every other layers can be there included. And what we are aiming, in fact, in the DigiRail, we are aiming to have the FRMCS system which can utilize the public network as well. Because in Finland there is possibility to build up this kind of a network already. We have the know-how, we have the cooperation possibilities, we have the industry in already. So this is something we need to target to make everything out of the becoming radio network, not just the railway specific thing for the future. And currently we don't see the possibility that we will build the GSMR network anymore in Finland. We need to go forward with this. And something we have done in the project as well is that we have been squeezing all the targets, all the expectations, and the communication in one picture, which tries to give a view to everybody who really don't understand the railways anyways, as well what we are targeting and why we are targeting. There are different kind of comments related to this picture, but it's always welcome to comment this, and hopefully this at least gives you some feelings that you want to study this more detailed. I won't go this through now because most of the things are already said here, but you can hopefully find everything there we have been targeting and wanting to share the information for you. This is available on the website as well, and please welcome study it more detailed. It's in Finnish and in English, both versions. I didn't go too much into details, even you have promised, but in fact, if you are looking for the details, you are more than welcome to visit us in the project office. Let's talk there. Let's go through all the results we have now get out of the studies. So most warm welcome to all of you to come there and get into the details, and then we can continue discussions, because it's the best way to develop our common view for the future railway systems here in Finland. And I'm real glad, again, I will repeat myself, that this amount of people are willing to develop the future railways in Finland, even though we have been done this work just a half a year. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and we would be more than happy to answer the questions, and I will ask with the simple one, because Aki asked here during Jari's presentation that when will FRMCS be available? Well, we don't know that. The industry is of course looking for the TSI update for 2022, but we know that around Europe there are already pilot projects. For example, we learned, was it earlier this week or end of last week, that Deutsche Bahn, for example, had made a deal with Nokia in Hamburg for S-Bahn 5G. So that has to be something with regarding to FRMCS. And other deal is in Great Britain also. There is some pilots going on. I don't remember the facts anymore. But anyways, we are following this, and things are happening. But of course, the industry, I suppose, is looking for the updated TSI.
So before that, it's really, it's not a case that the FRMCS products will be available, but right after the development starts, at least we believe that.
One more question about FRMCS, that in Finland we have this ambition, perhaps together with Denmark, that we could use some kind of alternative models for spectrum for FRMCS. But those who visited France, Valenciennes, this CCRCC conference, Commission policy officer Carole Grandis did in his presentation highlight that this is not a way that European railway sector as a whole supports. So how can Finland and Denmark find support for these alternative ways of FRMCS in a European railway community?
First of all, I think we need to make sure that the specifications come out in a way that it doesn't close the doors totally. And this is where we need to influence, in fact, now, and start to influencing that. But not in a way that it's rejecting the other countries as well to have their own views there. So the specifications should be written in a way that it doesn't close the doors for us or anyone else.
Yes, I was about to answer in the same way. So it's really important for us at the moment to try to influence, or we will influence to the TSI, so technical specifications of interoperability, so really hard stuff. But we will influence to there and try to get the statement there that it doesn't matter what kind of media you use between the signaling and the onboard.
As far as it's safe.
Well, of course, yeah, but
naturally.
But anyways,
because this will be raised the question as well.
I don't know if we answered your question or not, but I suppose yes. I hope.
The aim is clear, but how?
We are planning on that. Yeah.
It's in the design table, so to say.
Markku Voutilainen from Väylä. I had just a comment that already today TSI allowed public usage of the public network in 900 frequency band as a backup, because today GSMR train radio supports the public 900 band, and it's used in many. National roaming is used in many countries, and but I think it's mainly for the backup, and then some secondary lines. It's the main communication way. And if the TSI is not changing these principles, then it also should be possible that if it's the safety and all the other requirement is fulfilled, then it should be able to use, or I don't see any reason why any other radio network is not possible to use.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask you a question.
Oh,
after that.
okay.
Please no, we answer this question first, or was that a question? It was a comment.
It was an answer, not a question.
Thank you. Petter Airikainen from ABB. You said that we were welcome to visit you at your project office. Where is that located?
It's located in Finrail, Palkkatilan Portti 1.
other side of the track
Yeah.
if you're looking from here. I think you can find the address from the website.
From the
Yeah.
website.
At
From
least
the
I hope.
website.
Or contact us with the email. So
Yeah. So
Okay.
we could agree that the date and time.
is that the- Wait. I'll take a picture.
I will go a little bit up.
yeah, I just realized that before we publish the presentation, maybe we put the media information and the contact information there also in the last slide. So you will.
Thank you.
Oh. Okay, any more questions? As I mentioned earlier, you can also ask in Finnish if you please.
Yeah, Kari Hapala from Mipro. So can you say what do you think about the RCA with relation to your scenarios, especially to scenario 3?
RCA is something we have studied now and following really closely. We have participated a couple of workshops already there. So it's related in that way that, for example, in Switzerland, they are putting a lot of wishes and hopes for that. And if the aims are achieved, then the cost efficiency will be better in the future for the interlocking side or the APS side of system, as RCA is saying, because they divide the system parts, they modulate this and make it more standardized interfaces between the modules. But it's still a concept. It has been developed through the agile methods and the aim, in fact, 2023 to have some kind of at least pilot line already with that concept in Switzerland. And this is strongly related to the Swiss program Smart Rail 4.0, and they are seeing a lot of cost benefits in the life cycle side for that. And 2025, if I remember correctly, the roadmap, there was an aim to have the commercial usage also through the RCA already. So that seems that it could open some doors for the future development and different kind of thinking of the railway systems. And good thing that is that there's also involved Deutsche Bahn and Network Rail already for that development, and they do cooperation in that sense.
Yeah, and I would add that yes, we are following the answer to your question. Yes, we are following it, and we have been participating in some of the workshops also, but I must say that they are quite far away.
Yeah, I said it's
they are
theoretical,
talking
yeah.
about quite theoretical and details and everything. So in Finland, we must see what kind of people would be participating, for example, to those, so we can get the benefit and we could actually give something also there.
So my name is Jürgen Engel, coming from Thales in Germany. Until FMRCS will be available, it will probably take until 2028 for commercial rollout. What are your plans in the meantime? Is there intermediate technology you plan, or will it be the vision to take this as a goal without intermediate steps?
Well, this is a goal, of course, yes, and we are aiming for that. But in the meantime, we are, for example, we are starting up a pilot project where we are going to implement some kind of radio network without GSMR anyways. So we are preparing, and maybe we'll be the first ones to implement FRMCS in Europe.
And a pilot and not based maybe on the standard.
Yes.
So it's a particular development and maybe conflicting with the standard later on.
I hope not.
But there's also opportunity to show the direction for FRMCS development to start to utilize the existing standards, as we have learned that there is a long road before the standards are complete and done in a way that it's not without the gaps there.
So you will maintain the EPICAP system in Finland until you can replace it with a ETCS level 2 or 3 then?
Well, we will be remaining with EpiGap until we replace it with ETCS. So we don't have any set decisions yet what to do, but this is what we are at the moment aiming and what we are focusing on the survey project, what Jari presented previously.
Yeah, to be precise, we are forming the common future for Finland, the vision kind of map to us, and the rollout and the future steps are now planned more detailed in the near future as well.
Okay, thank you.
Markku has additional information.
Actually, this is question maybe for the Mr. Russen that what I understand now that the ETCS the baseline 3 release 2 and the TOBA project, the onboard technical onboard working group has proposed proposal 3 where there is no changes to ETCS. And what is your opinion that if we have if this will be based on the standardization, that are there any changes to the ETCS itself, or can the ETCS baseline 3 release through support FRMCS if the TOPA proposal will be the final one?
I'm sorry, Mr. Rusen is not available at the moment, but yeah, but and I will not be answering on behalf of Michel. So, but maybe
Yes, yeah.
we can take your question and ask from Michel because it's a quite important question. Yeah. So I'm sure he has an answer to that. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry for that. I didn't.
Sorry, I didn't realize.
But let's talk that later on then.
So question.
Jani Lehtinen from Sinia. I have a question related to the radio network. Could you consider, because one of the bearers to be supported by FRMCS is the public mobile network, how do you see the use of these public networks for safety critical communication like ETCS? And when you visited the other countries, where was this in the discussion?
Yeah, I see it so that it's really important for Finland to focus on that we can utilize the public network for this ETCS, and other places in Europe, no. Maybe Estonia is one example of who is quite interested about this, but there are many reasons behind why in Central Europe, for example, they don't have by far as good coverage on the radio network as we do on the public sector, for example.
Just a short question. Maybe you want to utilize the public network itself or the technology like the public network?
Utilize the public network, yes.
Really the public network?
Yeah.
At least targeting there,
Yeah.
and take everything out of that. Any other questions, comments? Welcome.
Yeah, meanwhile you're thinking about the next question, I would say we will be sending all the participants a questionnaire about some interesting topics that we would like to get your short answer. And anyways, you are free to contact me and Jari. And you find the contact information in the updated presentation and in the website also. Okay, if no further questions, then thank you very, very much for participating this very, very important thing for the future railways of Finland.
Okay.
So
Thank you.